Right then, let's dive into the kind of drama that only Rangers Football Club can deliver. Few players have managed to win over the Ibrox crowd as quickly and passionately as Nicholas Raskin. But now, out of nowhere, the Belgian midfielder has thrown a curveball that's bound to shake things up in Glasgow. After a rough start to the season, fans were already tense, questions were being asked, and now Raskin's revelation is throwing petrol on the fire. And make no mistake, what he said doesn't just hint at friction behind the scenes, it confirms it. Raskin has been a fan favorite since day one. His tenacity, vision, and the emotional connection he seems to have with the club gave supporters something to hold on to during an otherwise turbulent period. But now, we're seeing the other side of that passion, frustration. Being dropped from the matchday squad in a massive fixture like the Old Firm Derby? That raised eyebrows. Getting pushed out to train away from the first team at the training ground? That sent alarm bells ringing. And when he finally broke his silence after scoring for Belgium in a 6-0 thrashing of Kazakhstan, it wasn't to say all was fine. It was to admit there's a problem. A big one. In his own words, Raskin said his situation at the club is complicated. And that's putting it mildly. You don't go from being a key player, adored by fans, to being iced out by the manager unless something's seriously gone off behind closed doors. Russell Martin, still fresh in the Ibrox hot seat, seems to have drawn a line in the sand. Whether it's tactical, personal, or something deeper in the dressing room, it's clear Raskin has been on the wrong side of it. But here's the twist, he's not asking to leave. Far from it. Raskin was very clear, a transfer is off the table. He wants to stay, he wants to fix it, and more than anything, he wants to be part of this Belgium squad heading into a major international campaign. So now Rangers are staring down a familiar problem. Internal conflict that plays out in public and threatens to derail the season before it's even properly begun. The club has been down this road before, and the timing couldn't be worse. With a must-win match against Hearts looming, and after a shaky European campaign that's already exposed holes in the squad, Rangers need all the stability they can get. But right now, things are anything but stable. Elsewhere, the Oliver Ant-Man situation is another one worth watching closely. The Finnish winger arrived with a fair bit of fanfare, snapped up for £3.5 million from go-ahead Eagles in the Eredivisie. He exploded onto the scene with 2 assists on his debut in that commanding win over Victoria Plzen. But since then, not much. No goals in 6 matches, and questions starting to bubble about whether he's the right fit. But those who know him best are already warning. Don't mistake quiet performances for a quiet personality. His former coach at Nordjylland, where Ant-Man spent a formative 6 years, has painted a picture of a player who's not afraid to speak up, even challenge the manager if things aren't clicking. That's not to say he's a troublemaker. Far from it. What he is intense, committed, determined to improve, and deeply motivated. The kind of player who'll test the boundaries, not because he wants conflict, but because he wants to win. But that also means he's not the type to sit back quietly if he feels he's being misused. In a high-pressure environment like Ibrox, that could go either way. He could become a leader or a lightning rod. The key will be Russell Martin's ability to manage personalities as well as tactics. Ant-Man's style requires understanding. His former coaches say he sees the game differently, sometimes spotting things his teammates or even his manager might not. That kind of player can be gold, if handled correctly. But mismanage it, and it becomes a problem. Rangers fans have seen this movie before too. Players brought in with potential, only to get lost in the chaos of a club still searching for a stable identity. Then there's the defensive line, an area that's already cost Rangers dearly. The signing of Jared Jige from Wolves on loan, just months after the Premier League side splashed out £10 million to bring him in from Red Star Belgrade, looked ambitious. At just 22 years old, the expectation was that he'd step in and become a pillar at the back. But what we've seen so far, anything but reassuring. 2 brutal legs against Club Brugge, 9 goals conceded, and suddenly the whole backline is under the microscope. It's not just a matter of individual errors. It's about partnerships, chemistry, understanding. And right now, Jige doesn't seem to fit. Former Scotland international pundits have been vocal in their criticism, calling him a liability and questioning whether he's got the tools to anchor a title-challenging defense. It's harsh, but also hard to argue with. The stats back it up. Rangers have already leaked 17 goals across all competitions. That's not a number you can gloss over. Enter Derek Cornelius. The Canadian international arrives with a pedigree that suggests he could be the answer, or at least part of it. At 27, he's got experience, having played against the very best at the Copa America, including Lionel Messi. He's a left-footed center-half with strong ball-playing skills, and according to reports, he was on Roberto De Zerbi's radar not too long ago. That's no small compliment. And for Rangers, he brings something they've been lacking: calm, balance, and maturity. Pairing him with John Souter, who's been awkwardly shifted into a left-sided role to accommodate others, might finally restore some structure to a back line that's been all over the place. Souter's performances have suffered not because he lacks quality, but because he's been asked to do too much out of position. Cornelius could allow him to focus on what he does best. But for that to happen, Martin needs to make the call, and soon. Loyalty to Jige can't outweigh the need for results. And that's the underlying theme here. Whether it's Raskin, Ant-Man, or the defensive reshuffle, Russell Martin's early days in charge have been defined by uncertainty. From the outside, it looks like a squad that's still trying to figure itself out, still adapting to new ideas, and still lacking that core identity that the great Rangers sides of the past have always had. The margins are razor-thin this season. Celtic aren't going anywhere, and Hearts are starting to find serious form. There's no time for prolonged experiments. What Martin does now will shape not just this campaign, but his entire tenure. Keeping Raskin engaged and reintegrated might not just save a talented player's season. It could save the team's midfield from falling apart. Getting the best out of Ant-Man might give Rangers the kind of attacking spark they've sorely lacked in tight games. And sorting out the defense? Well, that's the foundation for everything. Because right now, Rangers aren't just leaking goals, they're leaking belief. And as we look ahead to what's next for Rangers, the mood around the club feels like it's teetering on a knife's edge. On one side, there's the potential for real progress, a chance to turn a shaky start into something stronger. On the other, the real danger that internal tension and inconsistent performances could see the season unravel before it even reaches Christmas. Everything depends on how this team responds, not just tactically, but mentally. The fans have seen this pattern too often, a spark of promise, followed by a slide into chaos. And if that's going to be avoided, the dressing room needs to come together, and Russell Martin needs to find clarity in his selections and strategy. Raskin's situation remains the focal point of that conversation because it reveals so much about what's happening behind closed doors. This isn't just a player falling out of form. This is a midfielder in his prime, performing on the international stage, being sidelined at club level without a clear explanation. And he's not lashing out. He's not giving interviews slamming the manager or throwing teammates under the bus. Instead, he's asking to resolve it, openly and respectfully, because he wants to play, and more importantly, he wants to stay. That should matter. That should carry weight. But whether Martin sees it that way is another question entirely. You've got to wonder how this is playing in the dressing room too. Because make no mistake, players talk. When someone like Raskin is pushed aside, others notice. It can shift the atmosphere quickly. Players start questioning their own roles, their own security in the squad. It creates tension. And if results don't come immediately to justify those big calls from the manager, things can spiral. Fans see the performances, but players live the politics behind the scenes every day. And if the balance isn't right, it always shows on the pitch. Now, when you add Ant-Man into that dynamic, the stakes get even higher. He's a new signing, but not just any signing. A young international with a point to prove and a style that thrives on rhythm and confidence. If he's already challenging ideas in training or pushing back against instructions, as his former coaches suggest, that's a lot to handle for a manager still trying to cement his authority. The risk is obvious. If Martin doesn't manage that personality properly, he could lose the player before he ever gets the chance to unlock his full potential. And Rangers can't afford that. Not with the money spent, not with the lack of goals, and not with the pressure already mounting after dropped points and leaky performances. Let's not forget, Ant-Man isn't just here for development. He was brought in to deliver. The flashes he showed in that debut against Victoria Plzen were electric. Real pace, vision, the kind of player who can unlock tight defenses. But flashes aren't enough at Ibrox. Fans want consistency. They want end product. And while his work rate can't be faulted, The reality is he's gone quiet at a time when Rangers desperately need someone to step up in the final third. No goals in 6 games won't cut it for long, especially with European football now slipping further from reach and domestic rivals growing in confidence each week. Speaking of growing confidence, Hearts coming to Ibrox presents more than just another fixture. It's a test of everything that's been going wrong and everything that still might be fixed. This is a side in form, with momentum, belief, and very little to lose. They'll come to Glasgow looking to make a statement. And if Rangers aren't ready, if the midfield still feels disjointed, if the backline remains vulnerable, it could get ugly fast. This is the kind of match that reveals where a team really stands, whether they're together or fragmented, whether the dressing room has the stomach for the fight, or whether divisions are starting to take hold. And this brings us right back to the center-back dilemma, because it's been the Achilles heel of this squad all season. Jared Jigea's performances so far have been shaky at best. He looks unsure in possession, hesitant in one-on-one duels, and frankly overwhelmed by the speed and physicality of the Scottish game. Yes, he's young. Yes, there's still potential there. But Rangers don't have time to wait. Every dropped point feels like a step closer to crisis. Every defensive error is magnified under the Ibrox spotlight. And at some point, potential has to give way to production. That's where Cornelius could make the difference. He's not flashy. He's not the kind of player who'll bomb forward and grab headlines. But what he offers is balance, control, and a sense of calm in a backline that's been anything but calm so far. You could see the benefit immediately if he's paired with someone like John Souter in a system that suits both players. No more square pegs and round holes. Just solid, basic defending. The kind of platform that allows the midfield to push forward and the attackers to take risks without fear of being punished for every mistake. Cornelius also brings international pedigree, and that matters. Players who've competed at a high level bring a different mentality. They don't get rattled by hostile crowds or tense moments. They don't fold under pressure. And when you've got someone in the squad who's marked Lionel Messi in a Copa America, you know he's not going to be fazed by a Hearts striker on a Saturday afternoon. That kind of experience is priceless in a squad that's still struggling to find its voice. But again, it all comes down to Martin. He's the one making the decisions. He's the one shaping the tactics, setting the tone, managing the egos and the expectations. And so far, it's been a bumpy ride. There's still time to turn it around, but the margins are closing. Fans are losing patience. The media are circling. And unless there's a clear shift in both performance and atmosphere soon, this could turn from a rebuilding season into yet another year of missed opportunities and dressing room fallout. Martin was brought in to steady the ship, to bring fresh ideas and modernize the way Rangers play. But none of that matters if the team can't defend, can't score, and can't find a consistent lineup that brings out the best in its most talented players. Raskin has shown what he can do on the international stage. Cornelius has proven himself against elite opposition. Ant-Man has the tools to be a game-changer. The pieces are there. But until they're used properly, until they're trusted and positioned in a system that suits them, it's just potential, not performance. The club's next few matches aren't just about points on the table. They're about proving that this project under Martin isn't just another false dawn. They're about showing the fans and the players that there's a real plan in place. Because right now, it feels like that plan is hanging by a thread. And if it snaps, the consequences won't just be felt on the pitch. They'll be felt across the entire structure of the club. So all eyes turn to Saturday. Will Raskin be back in the squad? Will Cornelius make his debut? Will Ant-Man finally get on the score sheet? These aren't just lineup questions. They're symbols of something deeper. Signs of whether Rangers are moving forward or just going round in circles again. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. There's a rumor rippling through the footballing circles of Scotland, and it's one that has already set tongues wagging in pubs from Glasgow to Aberdeen. Word is drifting in from behind the scenes that YOUSSEF CHERMITI, the young forward with a growing reputation on the continent, has let slip some rather stinging remarks about the state of Rangers Football Club. According to whispers, the striker has told close acquaintances that he finds the current level of Rangers too low, a cutting judgment that, if true, will not sit lightly with the faithful at Ibrox. Rangers, a club steeped in history and never far from the limelight, have often been subject to commentary from outside voices, but rarely has such a pointed suggestion come from a player who has been linked with British football. The suggestion that their level does not match the standards expected of a modern European outfit is being read by some as an insult and by others as a warning shot. Could it be that Chermiti sees himself as too good for the Scottish stage, or is he simply being brutally honest about what he perceives? Supporters, of course, are fiercely protective of the club's reputation. The very idea that a youngster not yet tested in the relentless fire of old firm derbies would dare to question Rangers' stature has already caused an undercurrent of anger online. Yet among pundits and former players, there's a quieter, more nuanced conversation taking place. Some admit that Rangers, despite their domestic dominance in patches, have struggled at times to impose themselves consistently in European competitions. For them, Chermiti's words might sting precisely because they brush up against an uncomfortable truth. Still, in the world of football rumor, nothing is ever simple. Was this truly a slip of the tongue, or has the story grown arms and legs as it passed through the grapevine? Regardless, the chatter has arrived at a particularly delicate moment, with Rangers eager to reinforce their image on and off the pitch. One thing is certain: if the young forward ever does make the move north, he will not be welcomed quietly. Scotland loves its heroes, but it never forgets a perceived slight. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.